Welcome to Season 2 of Frontline Fridays, brought to you by Ubik. I'm Ron Thurston, and this season, we're digging deeper into what it really takes to lead on the front lines of retail and hospitality. Together, we'll unpack the biggest shifts in frontline work and how smart leaders are navigating them to drive results where it matters most. Each episode, you'll hear from top executives, industry experts, powerhouse operators, all sharing practical tactics you can put to work immediately. Today, we're focusing on a challenge that's both deeply operational and deeply human: safety on the front lines. When safety breaks down, so does trust. Employees hesitate, customers notice, and store performance suffers. But when safety is built into the daily rhythm of a store, it creates confidence, better store experiences, and improved profitability. My guest today, Dean Correia, has spent more than 30 years making retail workplaces safer. He knows that accountability and safety aren't just policies and procedures, they're lifelines for the people doing the work every day. Dean is the founder of Correia Security Resources and one of North America's most respected security risk consultants. And he's supported major retailers like Walmart, Starbucks, and Gap. At Walmart Canada, he directed security planning for the 2010 Vancouver Olympics and the G8 G20 Summit. At Starbucks, he built auditing and investigative programs that saved millions of dollars. But Dean's mission is personal. Having lived through the aftermath of workplace deaths and violent incidents, he's committed to ensuring frontline teams have tools, training, and culture they need to stay safe and civil. So I want to start with the point of view of kind of the human anchor to this very important conversation. And one of the quotes that I've heard you say now several times that I love is that the safest place to work is the best place to work. So based on your experience from the brands you've worked for and the work that you've done, why has that become your mantra?
I've really seen it with frontline associates. I think safety and security and feeling safe at work is tied to engagement. And engagement is tied, as we know, to sales, to cleanliness, to attraction and retention of talent. Plus, it's the right thing to do morally and ethically. And I think it should be a factor when you're looking for real estate, choosing the design all the way through the day that the lights go open in the store. So I've really seen it impact engagement, lower shrink, improve sales, improve cleanliness. Then they want to attract and call in their talented and friends and family to work in the store as well.
Yeah, and share that often maybe with a customer to say maybe the best place to shop may also be in some cases the safest place to shop.
Exactly. And you and I have been in stores where you can feel the vibe 3 seconds walking in. Right, you can see, whether they love their job, don't love their job. You can instantly feel it, and part of the reason that they want to come to work is they feel it's safe and they're taken care of.
Agreed. Let's go back because the incredible brands and you and I crossed over 100 years ago at Gap and in the other work that you've done. What has inspired you to just continue on this mission that feels like today in 2025? Is more important than ever.
Yeah, Ron, I truly believe I was put on this earth to serve. And my goal is to leave the planet better in many, many ways when I leave than when I came into it. And I've been extremely impacted by certain violent incidents. I've been through multiple workplace murders, multiple workplace deaths at the brands that I've worked at. And, my goal is I have loved ones, you have loved ones. So my goal is to help my loved ones, your loved ones, come home from work every day. I don't ever want to shake another parent's hand and say, I'm sorry for your loss. But those incidents heavily, heavily impact me and drive me every day.
Thank you for sharing that. And moments like that as leaders, whether you're in safety and security, whether you're in roles like mine or anyone else, those are life-changing moments. And you're right, you make decisions of the impact that you want to make based on some of these experiences. And it's an unfortunate part of leading humans is sometimes the hard part of that.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. And I've also found it's true test of the brand itself. It's easy when it's easy. But when you have those tough moments, you really truly see the DNA of a brand. And I've been very fortunate to work with a number of terrific ones. So I think as leaders, it's always an opportunity. And one of my favorite and most impactful mentors always told me, Dean, the best time to lead is in the time of a critical incident. And, he was right. I believe that personally as well with the people that are close to me in my relationships. You see their true DNA during the tough times, and same as leaders. So, to the leaders that are watching this, I would really advise you just pause, take a deep breath when those tough moments come, because it's a good developmental opportunity. It's a really good time for you to show your DNA and how much you care during a critical incident. And no one expects you to be perfect, but they do expect you to lead. And we all have different ways of doing that. And I think it's a real trust for all of the leaders listening to this and all the brands, whether it's COVID or a serious workplace situation, you're being evaluated.
Agreed. Yeah. And I love that you said you may not be perfect. You will likely have never gone through that before. When I've had those serious events at work like that, or kind of physical harm, or even COVID, I've said it before, like no one knew how to lead through that. We were all in it together. I was lucky enough to work under the Gap Inc. umbrella of brands at the time. And so here we are, billions of dollars of business and leaders running these huge companies, all of us together trying to figure out how to lead through something we'd never done before. And many of those people on those calls have been doing this for decades. I think that's the beauty of experience, is that there's always going to be something new, but you use all the tools and resources and training and mentorship that you've had over your career and just jump in and lead.
Right. Exactly. And what I often remind the brands that I work with during these tough times is your staff is a human being first, and they're an employee of the brand second. So they're going to go home around the dinner table to their loved ones on the weekend, and just take care of them as a human being first, and then the business will take care of itself. But it's really important to, regardless of whether you're a VP or somebody like yourself or myself, Ron, that's been in the industry for decades, or you've been in there for 10 days. Don't assume that you're going to handle the situation well just because you're a veteran and been in the industry and you're at a high level, and don't assume you're not going to handle the situation well just because you've been, with your brand for 3 days. So really connect with them as a human being, ask them what they need, because it's different for every person, and then they'll take care of the rest typically.
Yeah, agreed. So let's chat about just current situation. Here we are, fall 2025. In your world, what do you see as some of the most current pressing challenges that the field has today?
Two come to mind. I think number one is the audacity of a lot of the criminal elements throughout the globe, and specifically North America. And, you turn on the news and you see it every day, whether it's the scooping up of alcohol or clothing or whatever it is, and just taking it out on the cart or taking it out just in your arms. So I think that ties to what I believe, and my company is just about to release some research on incivility. And I think the amount of incivility impacts all of us every day. Whether, again, we're at the baseball diamond watching our kids play, or whether we're on the front lines, as many of the associates here are reading, it's escalated to staff disgruntlement, threats on executives, increase in fraud, increase in shrink. People are just more and more becoming uncivil with each other, and that's translating to the work. So it's a customer coming in and feeling they have the right to speak to you or treat you a certain way, and I think that's going to only continue, unfortunately. Typically my experience is, when the economy goes south, crime goes up. Good people make bad decisions they normally never would make. So I think it's always important to be extra aware when economic times are tougher, that people may have a bill that they can no longer pay, and because their spouse lost their job or whatever it might be. So I think it's really important to know the macroeconomic trends that are happening out there. And I think one thing that I've seen and I continue to see and continue to believe in is law enforcement resources are strapped. So I think it's up to all of us. Don't expect law enforcement to save or rescue. If they do, if they support, I talk to brands every day, and we're on our own. And I think collectively as retailers, and restaurateurs, we need to focus on banding together, whether it's through business improvement associations or just collectively figuring out what local groups matter to us. And trust me, I have a lot of friends in law enforcement. It's not as if they don't want to respond. They just really, really have competing priorities. So I always invite people to bring law enforcement into the conversation, invite them to your store, to your new store opening or whatever it might be, and build that relationship. They're not used to it. They're used to, somebody calling them literally when it's 911. But I think you and I have known through our careers, Ron, it's great to build that relationship with all of our retailers and law enforcement. And I think it's a trend that's not going to stop. So don't expect law enforcement to respond to a great deal. And I think crime is going to continue. It's organized. It's, when law enforcement puts pressure on certain elements of crime, whether it's drug trafficking or human trafficking, that criminal element, that organized crime group does not stop operating. They don't become defunct. They just go to other sources of revenue. And whether it's e-commerce, whether it's a bricks and mortar, whether it's supply chain, why would I go to 10 different stores when I can just, hijack a 53-foot trailer along the highway? I'm a business person. It's economical, much more economical to do that. So I think organized crime, incivility, and, law enforcement resources being strapped are three definite trends that I see continuing.
And those are big and scary. Honestly, when you describe that, they'd sound quite overwhelming. So give us maybe just some things that every retailer in a hospitality business, just what are some easy and maybe effective things that people can do?
People ask me this question a lot. And so I'm a big policy procedure guy. I know that shocks you being in asset protection, Ron. How we love our policies and our procedures. But if there's one policy I wish every company would embed and comply with 100% incident reporting policy. Because again, another reality of most businesses is their P&Ls are strapped, their budgets are strapped, and to implement physical security, training, any sort of risk mitigation solution, it has to be a data-based decision, and the data has to come from incident reports. So the one ask I would have is include safety and security in every conversation you have at the store, every daily huddle, every full store meeting, every district meeting. And it's something as simple as you and I and 5 other associates are on the floor and we're having a huddle. Does everyone feel safe and secure in the last couple of days? Anything we should know about? Because what I have often learned is my definition of an 811 issue, or what concerns me or what causes me fear or concern, is different from you, Ron. That's perfectly okay, because we all have different experiences. We all have different levels of risk tolerance. So any safety and security incidents that anyone wants to talk about. And it's really important conversation. We talk about sales, we talk about the weather, we talk about new merchandise and the 57 boxes that are coming in and that we have to put on the floor. But I rarely, when I'm in stores, hear people talk about, does everyone feel safe? Every HR person I asked this question about or have a conversation with, and I said, my ask of you is to put one question on your next engagement survey. Do you feel safe at work? That's it. And I probably think 10% of the brands include any sort of a safety and security question. So again, it has to start on onboarding, and it has to be institutionalized with daily communication, a communication board with your incident report number or program, a comm log, a communication log that anybody can write anything down. Because my experience is before somebody commits a crime like theft or violence, there's always warning signs, and they're always looking for the softer target, the stores that aren't aware, that maybe don't have the physical security that other stores do. Don't freak people out. Don't scare people. I'm not here to do that. But I think in this day and age, especially, just bring the conversation to the forefront and make sure your staff feel cared for and respected. Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, always said, if you want to solve all of your business problems, just ask 2 groups, your staff and your customers. That's it. And he's right. And they'll help you with 80% of your strategy needs. So I think just simply asking, you're a leader, you're walking around the floor, whether it's a daily huddle or not, we're sitting together having lunch in the back room. Hey, Ron, have you felt safe in the store in the last week? And then, Dean, now that you mention it. And often, as we know, you have to ask as a leader. You have to open the door, and then I'll jump right through it.
Maybe the question or the conversation was related more to the shrink number. Or when you think about loss prevention safety, you're talking about shrink. And what you're describing is actually much more human. It's much more rooted in leadership and culture. And really, like, how do you feel? How are you feeling, overall? And do you feel safe? Like that you're right, opens the door for an honest, real conversation about many parts of their experience.
If I feel cared for and my leader is truly a servant leader, then I'm comfortable having that conversation. I'm okay being vulnerable to have that conversation, and all kinds of great, qualitative and quantitative business, advantageous tips and tricks are going to come out of those conversations. Plus, as we all know, when the time gets tough on the floor and you're getting slammed or somebody calls out short, or, you have if you and I have that relationship bucket, that relationship bank that's full, we may not be the most friendly or chatty with each other because we have a job to do. That's the reality of retail. It's very difficult. But because we have that relationship bank and we trust each other, we're going to realize we have a business to do. We have these 17 customers to take care of, or these, 8 bags of trash to take out, or whatever it is. It's just, it's work. But we have that respect for each other and realize that it's not personal. We're just trying to get a job done.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that all of this, because I remember, often I would travel, as a head of stores, travel always with a loss prevention partner. And, because you're putting then equal importance. I'm traveling with maybe head of visual merchandising or someone from an HR team, of course, multi-store leaders. But if you also then travel with your LP partner, it isn't just about coming to catch someone doing something wrong or do an interview. It's like, we are here as a leadership team to support you and make sure that every part of the business is being addressed, that they are of equal importance. Visual merchandising is not more important than loss prevention and safety. We are equally important. And in some cases, actually, depending on what's going on, more important today.
Yeah.
But I think that's all of our jobs as a leader, is to help prioritize that conversation and make sure you're right. It's the one that is given proper weight.
Yeah. And help, as leaders, if you're, especially as a district and above level, help the store managers understand the tie-in with safety and security to engagement. An engaged store is a safer store, less shrink, less turnover, less call outs for sick, all that stuff. So because they feel cared for and they feel that they have a pulse on what it is. And we all know the cost of shrink. And, I've been really amazed and pleased that the shrink conversation is reaching the board level. And, we all know some brands recently that have reported results this year, and they've specifically closed stores or mentioned missing earnings because of shrink or crime. And I think that's, people have asked me that question a lot. I think it's an amazing development for the asset protection, loss prevention function to have that kind of publication. I think it's real. And I think it just shows that the expectation in some brands is that we have these conversations more frequently and understand, get our store associates to understand, A, we care about them, and B, minimizing crime, minimizing risk, minimizing shrink can positively impact, many elements of our current and future store growth.
And when you hear those conversations at the senior level, board level, and those numbers are being reported, are there examples where you've seen the board maybe then unlock funds to say, well, actually, we need to improve staffing, or we need technology solutions? Or have you seen any output from more reporting? Because I agree with you, I've seen it, and sometimes maybe not used in the right way, as more of an excuse about results. But have you seen the positive side?
Yeah, I have. Absolutely. Walmart's testing body worn cameras right now as one example in the industry with, one of the world's biggest brands. And I've seen security officers being deployed based on risk. And again, I go back to it. It's all a risk-based decision because it's emotional. It can't be intuitive. And, if you and I are touring and, 7 store managers that we talk to in those 2 days say, oh, my I don't feel safe. My store is a mess, or whatever it is from a crime point of view, then we're going to need to see the data. So I think it is impacting, and whether it's self-checkouts, just from a supply chain and logistics point of view, it impacts everything in the fishbone, from getting great products to great stores and putting them on the shelf and right into the customer's trunk. But I definitely think it's impacting budgets and technology. And, I like to bucket it in terms of the solutions, always people, processes, and technology. I think it impacts all of those buckets when crime and shrink is overwhelming in a certain area or industry. And those are the 3 ways to attack it, in my opinion.
For sure. Things like self-checkout, have become kind of the hot button for some of these as well, that are so manual. It can be very rooted in error. So it's funny to see those kind of shifts in conversation that are really about shrink in many ways too.
Yes, it's definitely not about human connection. It is, many brands implemented it as a pilot to reduce shrink, simultaneously reducing labor. However, I could tell you stories for days how fraud and shrink have gone up in many, many self-checkout stores, and they're being, disbanded in a few as a result. And, it's just, again, it's like everything else, Ron. You pilot it, you test it, but you have to continuously improve it. And there has to be some sort of human intervention. It doesn't matter if it's self-checkout, AI, and everything in between. There has to be human intervention to ensure it meets the brand and it takes care of the product.
Yeah. Let's go back for a moment to, and you said one of the number one things people can do, have kind of morning huddles, morning meetings, daily downloads, whatever you want to call it. That's number one. I think that's important for many reasons that we could go on. But the other one you said was incident reports. So how do we make that simple and easy to do? Because the more time that it takes to complete something, everyone being strapped for time and energy, the less likely it is to get done. So what's the simple, easy way to make this happen?
Yeah, again, there's lots of digital solutions out there. And I think it's just something as simple as the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, how, and that's it. And it doesn't have to be that sophisticated, but it does have to be documented because, again, like I said, and we're not there in our stores 24 hours a day. So if we start talking about an incident of somebody that looks like me, and then you connect the dots and saying, I had trouble with that guy too, and then so does Mary, and so does Sue, and so does John, then we start to connect that dot. So it's through casual conversation. But at some point, if you want to especially get law enforcement, or you want to try to influence your company to make a different operational security or physical security solution and bring it to your store, you're going to have the documentation. So I think it starts simply with the 5 W's and then can progress into a formal incident report and take it from there.
Yeah, whatever that looks like for the company.
Exactly.
It could be done digitally. It could be done written out by hand. There's a lot of different, and often used in court, right, for convictions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's why it's important to document it while all the information is still fresh in your mind. We all know how long CCTV records hold, and in most companies it's substantial. So all the information fresh in your mind. Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, as they used to say in the old TV show. And if you don't know, don't guess as well, because as soon as it's written down, it's gospel. So it's just simple 5 W's. On May 1st, this is what happened, this is what I saw, and this is how it was done.
Yeah. The benefit then to the frontline teams could be payroll. It could be support. It could be additional resources. I were just thinking back too of having these incident report conversations and what's documented, and then all of a sudden something happens and there's no paper trail. Right. What's in it to frontline teams to do this well?
That's a great question. So if you're not aware, your store manager schedules based on projected sales. So a reduction of sales means less hours for you on the schedule, which means less money in your pocket. So other than, being an amazing salesperson, shoplifting stuff, items being stolen, customer counts being down because it's not a safe store, their perception's not a safe store. That also always means reduced sales, which means reduced hours, which means reduced money in your pocket. So if you see somebody at work making a bad decision and they take some merchandise, or they under record a sale, that means your sales are down for the week, and your store manager is therefore going to forecast less sales, which means less sales for you and less hours for you. So think about it that way. That's the incentive. A, because it's the right thing to do. B, you want to keep the financial viability and health of your store so that you can move throughout the ranks, because your path to promotion is paved by a healthy store financially. And one store equals 2 healthy stores equals 3 healthy stores, and your brand may be able to expand. But the average shrink in the most recent study is 1.6 to 1.8% of your sales. That's a lot. Think about all the work that you do every day to, sell and merchandise your store and clean a store and staff it well. And customer walks in, drives in, stands in line. They put the items on the counter. They don't get properly recorded, or all the money doesn't go to the bank. That's frustrating. All the effort that you took to get that sale to the 1 yard line, it not only is it frustrating, it's not financially accurate, which means your store is not as financially healthy as it is, and therefore you may not be getting as many hours and wanting to have the promotion opportunities that may be possible.
Great one. The other point that I'm thinking about too here is kind of inventory accuracy. Those incident reports can also help often get replenishment faster, or product that's missing, from the planning team. There are many resources, because if you think about frontline impact, if I'm a commissioned sales associate, I don't have the product to sell. that impacts the bottom line. The faster I get replenished, the more money I can make, which incident reports can be related to that. So it's much more layered than actually filling out a report. And I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's very nuanced. And it's also, I think, part of like just an education process on business acumen related to retail. That these are multi-million dollar businesses. And one of the things I often say is like part of the benefit of choosing to work even part-time in retail is you're learning how to run a multi-million dollar business. And this is one of the things that you learn about.
Yeah. My wife and I no longer shop at one specific brand because their assortment is all over the map. And we specifically looking for 2 products during the holiday season and they weren't there. So we went somewhere else and now we don't go back. I would challenge anybody that's listening to this to go to a leader in finance and ask them, what is the cost of the loss of a customer for a lifetime? And you'll fall on the floor. So do not have that product, whether it's because your product assortment isn't right, because those items are stolen and therefore not on the shelf because it takes a while to replenish, and therefore that customer goes somewhere else and you may lose them for life or for 6 months. The other impact is if an item gets stolen today, and you have to replace it tomorrow, you probably got that in 3, 4, 5 months ago. So I don't even want to bring up the subject of tariffs, but now you're paying more tariffs, more higher cost of goods, different foreign exchange, September 2025 to replace that item because you bought it in April 2025. So to your point, it's very intricate. And that's why I love this career path. It's one of the reasons I chose the career path, because it's not just guns, gates, and guards. And I really feel that in this function of asset protection, I think it's a terrific career path. And I would encourage anyone to talk to a store leader about it. You can impact people's hearts, their minds, the financial viability of your store. And you really can make a difference in so many ways, both qualitatively and quantitatively.
Thank you for sharing that. I agree with you. And I've had the pleasure of watching many people move into asset protection and loss prevention from the field because they just love it. They love all the analytics and the people and the partnerships, and it is a great career path. And to your point, not going away.
Correct. Not going away. Not going away. And like everything else, I mean, we should deputize each other to we're all recruiters, we're all visual merchandisers, we're all salespeople. So I would challenge the leaders out there to figure out how to cast the net wide and deputize some of your other operational or non-asset protection people to know a little bit about asset protection or loss prevention. Tour with them, go to their meetings, invite asset protection to your meetings, to your store huddles or whatever it might be, and do that pollination. And when I was with the brands that I was with, and I suggest this to my clients today, is, when you're looking for some talented leaders, if you're in asset protection, go to ops, pull from ops. If somebody's hit the ceiling in your team from a career path, encourage them to go into operations. It's a win-win enterprise wide. And, I loved it nothing more than if I really wanted to know the business, my team would spend time in the field, of course, but to bring in an ops high performer into my asset protection team, that was utopia.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. And because you understand the nuances of how the business operates every day and the challenges that it faces and the workload that it's faced with every day, you get it. And you find the ways to insert yourself into the ecosystem of running a business.
In a support function, we all serve the stores. Again, one of my mentors tell me, hey, Dean, there's no cash registers here at head office, so make sure you and your team are in the stores a lot. And we were. We all serve the stores, and that's important to, if you want to strategize how to best serve your customers, you have to be with your customers.
Absolutely agree. Dean, while we have just the last few minutes here, I want to kind of forward think. So you mentioned about some reporting that's coming out around incivility, which is such an interesting word, I should say. What does that look like? What can people expect? And just come wrap up with trends that you're seeing.
Sure. So, I mean, from an incivility perspective, again, it's ghost employees, people that just aren't working, whether it's, return to office or whatever's impacted them. Some of the stats from our research, labor strikes are up 280%. Return to office has caused employee activism and anger to increase 63%. So it's really important as leaders, regardless of what function, to understand and really touch the hearts and minds of everyone to understand how they're dealing with and how they're perceiving what's happening, whether it's geopolitics, whether it's economics, whatever it is, and make sure they have the resources and tools, whether it's an employee assistance program plan, and understand and really publicize that they have the resources out there. But from an incivility point of view, it's just we're having struggles as human beings in terms of remembering how to treat each other respectfully, whether it's customer to customer, customer to employee, employee to employee. And I think it translates to at home, and at home translates to what's happening, quote unquote, when people are on the clock. But, it impacts fraud, it impacts threats against executives. New York City, unfortunately, has been a very hotbed, Ron, where you are, for executive threats and executive incidents over the last 6 months. So people have less patience and people get fed up more quickly. And unfortunately, it manifests itself to more confrontations.
And the reporting, what's your intention, I guess, with the reporting, just so that we have a broader perspective on this?
Yeah. Great question. Just to continue the conversation and raise awareness that it's real, it's here.
Yeah.
It may or may not escalate, but I think it's an important conversation to have, just like we have other conversations, but whether it's mental health or addiction, it's all under a similar umbrella, and just to ask people why. Sometimes unfortunately, you're the first person that person sees, and you're going to take the brunt of whatever's happening at home or what just happened en route to the store. But make sure, and people always ask me, well, what can I do? Just take care of your people. I mean, what's your scheduling look like? Are they taking their vacations? Are they taking their breaks? Do they feel they have an open door? Do they understand the employee assistance program? Just take care of them as human beings, because it's overwhelming, sometimes. And it's really important, regardless of whether you've been in the industry 30 years or 3 days, to understand that, incivility is a real part of what's happening in society today. Whether you're just going to the bank or, shopping for groceries, or sitting in the stands watching your nephew play t-ball, people are becoming more and more incivil.
Yeah. And I think it's taking judgment out of it and understanding the facts versus the perception of maybe the facts or the news, or however you get your news, because much of what you're describing also shows up in your social media feed, because it could be perceived as funny, and it's not funny. It's certainly not funny when it's taken out on teams on the front line.
Yeah. And when you're in those tough escalated situations, just, try to modulate your tone, try to maintain eye contact. If you do feel threatened, have a code word in your store that you can use. So if you and I are, if you're 10 feet away from me, Ron, and I'm having a real escalated conversation with somebody, and I say our code word or our code phrase, you're aware that this conversation between me and this person is escalating. You're going to visually watch it. And if you feel it's escalating even further, you're going to call 911 right away. So have those code words, those code phrases. Always tell the customer what you can do, not what you can't do. Because nobody likes to be told that. It probably escalates the situation. Oh, no, I can't give you a refund, or I can't replace those jeans, or I can't. Tell them what you can do, and just repeat the same things over and over again. And that usually helps modify and modulate the conversation.
Thank you. Just last question, wrap up. What's one thing everyone listening to this could do to, I'm not even going to say improve this, but generate a sense of that safe place to work?
Yeah, I think, again, just embed safety and security in everyday conversation in your stores, however you see fit. I always find with my clients, everyone's hyper aware after an incident or after I do a training workshop. And then guess what happens 2 weeks later? We have short memories as human beings. There's lots of examples that I could give that shows that people are really heightened after an incident, and then they just go back, unfortunately. So just like every other really important topic, if you embed safety and security, you'll find out what's truly happening in your stores, and people will feel taken care of. And you're also holding people accountable by asking them and giving them that opportunity to talk. And because no one wants to feel that they're not heard or not listened to. And if you give them the opportunity, then I think you'll hear a lot of great things, and it'll improve all of the elements that we've talked about your store operations.
I love this conversation because it is so rooted in a successful business. And a successful business and a great place to work. And all of it is so rooted in the work that you do. Thank you for that. Thank you for your dedication to this part of our industry, because it's critically important. And what I've learned in the last 30 minutes is it's likely going to become even more important over time, based on your research and based on the work that you're doing. So I appreciate that you do it.
Thank you very much, Ron, for this opportunity. And to everyone listening out there, thank you for what you do every day.
Yeah.
in our stores and in our restaurants. I know it's not easy, and but you are appreciated, and please continue to vocalize, store improvements and risk, and to make not only your store a better place, but this world a better place.
Amazing. And how can people find you, Dean?
I would say LinkedIn is the best place. I'm happy to
Great.
continue the conversation, happy to connect, and whether it's virtually or in person, always willing to learn and find out what else is happening. And like I said earlier, I was put on this earth to serve, so I'm always looking to see how I can serve and help more effectively.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being on the show, Dean.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
As store leaders, we often think about safety in terms of shrink, inventory accuracy, and the number of incidents reported. And while those metrics matter, what we don't talk enough about is the human side, how safety shapes trust, retention, and team culture. When theft, risk, or incivility go unaddressed, the cost is far greater than lost merchandise. It impacts how many hours we can schedule, how secure employees feel just showing up to work, and whether they recommend our stores as an employer. So here's your challenge for the week. Make safety and asset protection personal. Talk to your teams about why these processes exist, not just the what. Make reporting simple, celebrate when people speak up, and embed safety into your daily culture. So it's not just a checklist, but a commitment to having each other's back. Because as Dean said, the safest stores aren't just the best places to shop, they're the best places to work. Thank you for listening, and a special thanks to Ubic, the AI-powered platform helping retail and hospitality leaders connect, train, and empower their frontline teams. Visit ubic.com, that's YOOBIC.com to learn more. Until next time, keep leading boldly, keep your team safe, and never forget, the future of frontline work is powered by people.